Hi guys, welcome back. I am super excited for you guys to start learning how to draw with the mouse, which is today's code along. I know that for some of us it might have been a while, so please make sure that you have this video open in a separate window and you're doing a side-by-side where in one window you have your video playing and you've resized the other to be right next to it so you can code along with the video. We are not doing anything super complicated today in this video, but you guys are going to be asked to unleash all your creativity and make something super awesome as soon as this ends. So you may have noticed there's no starter code in the work for this week. Just make sure you open a new editor. Again, it might have been a while since you have done this and not duplicated something. So make sure you rename it something useful. Right now mine is Majestic Princess. I would probably rename this 1.3.0 draw with mouse or something so that I can keep track of it for later. And once you've done that, remember to also save your file and save frequently. You do not want to lose your work or lose this as an example. As a final note, sometimes I try and take notes as code comments as I'm going through, but sometimes I'm just trying to get you guys your content. So remember that you can leave code comments on anything that you need to remember. That's a great idea for you guys to have that to look back on. So let's go ahead and get started. Right now there's nothing fancy in this code, and the first thing that we are actually going to do together is just add a circle that follows the mouse. So I'm going to put in an ellipse with mouse X, mouse Y, and I'm going to give it a size of 100. Please remember that you guys are more than welcome to pause this video and rewatch any parts that you need. Remember, I'm going to type fast and you are not expected to keep up, just pause as necessary. Once I have that ellipse in, I can even add a comment. This is an ellipse that follows mouse. I'm going to go ahead and hit play. And my computer's going to take a while to load because I'm sitting outside, as you guys can see. But now I have a circle that follows my mouse around. And we've maybe done this before. It's nothing super exciting, but we are about to make it more exciting in 1 second. So I'm going to take this background on line 6. I'm going to copy it and delete it from the draw function. And I'm going to paste it right into setup. And I'm going to make a note that I moved here from draw. Now, something weird is going to happen as soon as we move our background into the setup function. Now, when we hit play, instead of just one circle on the screen, I am getting so many circles, and I am actually able to draw with my mouse and make some kind of cool designs. This is one of those moments where I'm really sad I'm not in a classroom with you guys, because normally this is where students start losing their minds, because this is really cool and exciting for them. Some of you might be wondering, after you're over the initial shock of making something cool, how does this work? And we've talked about this a little bit, and I said it was going to be so important. The setup and the draw function run differently. The setup function runs one time at the very start of your program, and the draw function runs on an endless loop forever and ever and ever. So when background was in draw, what was actually happening was it was painting the background of the canvas a color, then it was putting the circle on, and then because it ran in a loop, it was putting another background over that and another circle, another background, another circle forever and ever and ever and ever. But because it was always covering the circle with a new background, you only ever saw one circle at a time. Now that the background is in setup, that background is going to be stuck there. It's not going to move. It's not going to go anywhere. It's not going to redraw. And our ellipse, which is still being drawn forever, isn't being covered by anything. So it is just allowing us to draw an ellipse, which is really awesome. If you ever want to make something that draws, this is how you would do it. You would either delete the background or move the background into setup. And this is also where I'm going to give you a reminder that if you wanted more space to draw, you could always edit these numbers and create canvas to make a bigger or smaller canvas so you have more space for your designs. So that is step 1 of this project. Step 2 is, if we were to make this a little bit smaller, I'm going to make it 10, to maybe try and draw more like a line. We might notice that drawing with this circle is cool, but it can get frustrating because it's not continuous. So maybe we want to be able to draw with a line. So this is how we're going to do that. First, I am going to comment out this ellipse, and I'm just going to add some space to my draw function. Remember, everything needs to be between these curly braces. I'm going to comment out this ellipse. Please don't delete anything in your code, guys. Just comment it out so you have it for later. And I'm going to make a note that we want to make a line that follows mouse. Now, an ellipse was pretty cool for following the mouse because it had 2 definite coordinates for x and y. A line is a little bit harder because we know that a line is always x1, y1, and then x2 and y2. So if I wanted to be able to make a line that followed my mouse, I need 2 different points. I can't just use mouse X and mouse Y. Lucky for us, P5 has these other points built in called P mouse X and P mouse Y, which hold the previous position of the mouse. So remember I said the draw function runs in an endless loop forever? That P mouse X and P mouse Y is wherever your mouse was the last time the draw function was run. So where it was like a split second earlier versus where it is right now, which is our mouse X and mouse Y. So if I wanted to put this into a program, I could put in line P mouse X, P mouse Y, mouse X, mouse Y. Oops, and this got a little weird because I wasn't spacing these. Y'all never need to hit space, you just can. And then when I play it, I have this continuous line that follows my mouse everywhere. It's really, really thin, so if I wanted it to be thicker, I could, of course, change the stroke weight. I could change the stroke color. I could do all kinds of crazy and cool things to make this interesting. And in fact, what your task is going to be to make the most unique drawing tool possible. So that means you might play with transparency. Remember, that's the optional 4th value on a color. You might play with stroke, you might play with stroke weight, you might try and make multiple shapes draw at once so that it draws with a rectangle, it draws with a square, a triangle, a circle, whatever you want, but you guys are going to try and make something unique and interesting. I will let you know, because it can be very frustrating to use just mouse X and mouse Y and P mouse X and P mouse Y all the time, that you can always practice doing a little math on these numbers, so you could add something, you could multiply, you could divide, you could subtract, and that will just adjust what value the computer is seeing versus where your mouse actually is. So if you were to add to mouse X, the line would always show up a little to the right of wherever your mouse actually is. And that can be really helpful if you guys are trying to get to a point where you're drawing with a full design or you're trying to make multiple things happen. So that is your challenge for today. If you are up for a little something extra, I'm going to show you right now something cool you can add. This is completely optional, but there is a built-in distance function with P5 that calculates the distance between 2 points. And this can be really cool when you are using P mouse X and P mouse Y, because it'll find the distance between your mouse in the last frame and the current frame, and it'll report a number that you can use to control things. So I'm going to make a variable called D1. I'm going to do all of this in draw because it does not need to be seen in setup or anywhere else. And I'm going to make D1 equal to the distance between where my mouse was, that's P mouse X, P mouse Y, and where my mouse is, which is mouse X and mouse Y. And I'm going to plug D1 in for stroke weight. Now when I'm moving, you see I get this thin line that's kind of like weird and it's not all one size. When I move really fast, I suddenly get a much thicker line. And the reason for this is when you move fast, there's a huge distance between where you were and where you are. Think of like when you leave school at the end of the day in the before times. If you sprinted out of the building, in 30 seconds, you'd be much further away than your friend who's like just kind of like talking and walking with their friends, right? So we can use things like this little bit of math without really knowing how the calculation is made, if that is not where we are in our math journey yet, to control interesting parts of our program. You guys do not have to use the distance formula. I just wanted to show you that it exists because I think it's kind of cool. And again, it's just a number, so it is something you could plug in anywhere. I am using it for a stroke weight right now, but you could use it for a fill color, you could use it for a stroke color. There's so many options out there for you guys. So I'm super excited to see what you guys come up with. Remember, you are trying to be the most creative person you can be. Make things transparent, make things colorful, make things changeable, whatever comes to mind, make something cool and have fun with it, guys. I'm excited to see what you make.